let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Dude,
I am sitting down.
man, you've peed like 15 times
The
before the
popcorn
damn
can't
movie's
be
even started.
beat.
And I'm gonna
The
pee 15
sparkling
more.
drinks are just
Did you see the size of my soda?
The chocolate
last time.
bars
I
and
feel like
the
I may as well take a free
candy.
kids
So
to this.
let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. To get ourselves a treat.
How do you use those draconians again?
Bond, any thug can kill. I have to know I can trust you.
Show starts in 10 minutes.
I understand double O's have a very short life expectancy.
You're a kite dancing in a hurricane, Mr. Bond.
Is this really what you want? Always alone?
We used to be able to get into a room with the enemy. Now they're just floating in the ether.
When her secret finds its way out, it'll be the death of you.
Oh my God. Target enough
This
people.
is our best podcast.
I know, this is
When
perfect.
the people
We should do
become
all
the
the
weapon.
podcasts.
Who is he?
James, you don't know what this is.
James Bond. Licensed to kill. In love with Madeline Swan. I could be speaking to my own reflection. Only your skills die with your body. And life is all about leaving something behind. Isn't it?
Come on, Bond. Where the hell are you? Okay.
If we don't do this, there will be nothing left to save.
I have to finish this. You ever flown like this?
Nope.
Pew!
My grandmother was right. The boogeyman was real.
It's over.
We can't hurt anyone ever again.
No one told you.
Told me what?
Somebody in there?
Michael Myers is alive.
Stop! You had a knife in your stomach.
You and Allison should not have to keep running. Evil dies tonight.
I'm not just gonna sit and watch another innocent person die.
If you track Michael's victims, it's a straight line to Michael's childhood home.
Well, you kinda did.
We fight.
That's the point.
Let's hunt him down.
Michael Myers is flesh and blood. But a man couldn't have survived that fire. The more he kills, the more he transcends.
Run! Go home now!
He's the essence of evil.
Do it! Do it! You want your mask? Come and get it!
I'm coming for you, Michael.
That was the whole movie. Did anyone watch?
There's something happening to me. There's something awakening in my mind. I can't control it.
What did you see?
There's a crusade coming.
Do you often dream things that happen just as you dreamed them?
Yes.
The test is simple. Remove your hand from the box, and you die.
What's in the box?
Pain. You inherit too much power. You have proven you can rule yourself. Now you must learn to rule others. Something none of your ancestors learned.
My father rules an entire planet.
He's losing it.
He's getting a richer one.
He'll lose that one too. Arrakis is a death trap.
I'll kill them. This is an extermination. They're picking my family off one by one.
Let's fight like demons.
An animal caught in a trap will gnaw off its own leg to escape. What will you do?
I know you.
One day, the legend will be born. All of civilization depends on it.
The future. I can see it. I must not fear. Fear is the mind killer.
My Lord Duke.
Where the fear is gone, only I will remain.
Go, go, go!
Well, hello, everyone.
What?
I was sitting there thinking, I really like these trailers, but I'm like, good God, this is the longest opening to a show ever. It is, there's a lot going on there.
You know what? That's appropriate.
It is.
We didn't have... Yeah. Fair enough. Well, welcome everybody to something a little bit different.
And
Actually,
now
a
for
lot
something
different.
completely different.
Exactly. We typically talk about D&D and RPGs in general. We talk about news, we talk about all these things, but every once in a while we get a bee in our bonnet. And I think the last time we did this was for The Mandalorian, right? But I think over the last week, each one of us has came to the group individually, and we're like, I need to talk to someone about this movie.
Yeah.
And it was 3 different movies.
Save it for the show. Save it.
Yes. And so we're like, you know what? We're just gonna hold on to them, and maybe we'll just talk about them for the podcast because I think these are fun movies. These are really these are movies that aren't just fun, but they also like each one means something important to at least one of us, right? Like they're 3 high priority movies. They're 3 movies that tell specific types of stories, which I think are also something that we like to talk about here is storytelling techniques and things. And they are also 3 movies that deal with different themes, which also again relates to things that we talk about a lot here, right?
And we may even be able to like somehow circle this back around to gaming at some point.
Yeah. That's not I would say that that's not our priority.
No.
Our priority is to chat the movies, and talk about thoughts about them, and then if and when reasonable, point the
If something happens to come up, no guarantees.
Because we got 3 movies, we're gonna get right down into it today. I don't think we're gonna do any news. We're not gonna do any Kickstarters or anything like that, unless Troy is gonna correct me here.
Well, we forgot to talk to Zach about this. There was something that you told us about Gamehole Con that you heard at Gamehole Con.
I believe it was AL related, maybe.
Yeah.
Not to lead.
We kind of thought maybe that would be a good news segment. Seeing as how it was talked about in a public way,
right?
And if we do want to do that, we should do the intro. I mean, are we going to do the intro?
Well, I mean, listen, this is not a typical episode, but I tell you what, I want to discuss with you both before we talk about it live what was said at that panel. So. Okay. For the listeners out there, I know that's a rough tease, but I think that we should not do that one right away.
Okay.
But things were said about AL at Gamehole Con, and we will talk about that, but I think we should hold off. Yeah, but we could do our little opener. So welcome one and all to the Bite Size Gaming Podcast, the podcast that typically talks about RPGs, but today is talking about movies. I'm your host, Zach, and also joining me as co-hosts are your good buddies, Troy Sandlin and John Christian.
Howdy.
Hello, everybody.
Yeah, so let's get down to it. So we just played 3 trailers, right? We played a trailer for Bond. This is for the podcast people. But we played a trailer for Bond. We played a trailer for Halloween Kills, and we played a trailer for Dune.
Yes.
And so those are the 3 movies that we're going to talk about. And I'm going to steal our format tonight from a really solid podcast that does movie reviews every single week. It's called Sift Pop, SIFTPOP. So if you like what we do here, I would somewhat recommend that you go check them out. Especially one of their hosts is a big D&D nerd, and it doesn't come up often, but it's yet another reason that you should check out that show, Sift Pop. So we're going to steal that because I like their format, and I think it helps us kind of put a context to this kit and caboodle. So fellas, here's what I'm suggesting that we do. I'm suggesting that we are going to give it not a grade, but a score here at the beginning. Then we're going to do a very brief, non-spoiler review of each one. Okay. And then we're going to close out with spoiler talk for the 3 of them. So if you don't want spoilers for anything, you can listen to this first section.
Okay.
All the way through. And then once we hit the spoiler button, you guys can all peace out if that's what you desire.
We'll go refresh our beverages to give you time to.
There you go.
Perfect. Get out.
Perfect.
Good call.
Okay. Live chat, if you have questions about the movies or if you have opinions about the movies, you've seen them too. this is a great opportunity for you to post thoughts as we discuss, and we'll bring those up where appropriate for the spoiler or non-spoiler chat. All right, fellas, are we ready? I think we're going to talk about Bond, No Time to Die, first and foremost.
Yes.
Let's do it. Okay, so John, this is so of all the movies, John, you're the only one of us who wasn't able to watch all three, and you missed out on Bond.
Yeah, I could stream the others. I could not stream this one, unfortunately, and I just couldn't get to the theater in time. But I think what I can provide is more, like, I don't mind the spoilers at all on this one. I've seen most, if not all, of the Bond films. I like them pretty well. I'm not like a super fan or anything like that. But I think what I can probably provide is more moderation / just questions about, for clarification, for maybe I'll act as the voice of the listener this time around.
The voice of the lay person, maybe.
The voice, the layman.
The lay person.
So Troy, this was your selection for movies. So I'm going to start with this question first for you. This is what we're going to start all of these off with. Troy, when it comes to No Time to Die, did you like it, love it, hate it, or feel like it was just okay?
I liked it with an asterisk.
I am right there with you. Same ballpark.
Yes. I would even say that it bordered on I loved it with an asterisk, but it was right. It was. But
yeah,
there's definitely qualifiers, and but they're spoilery. So
yeah. I'm right there. Probably like it sounds like you're like low side of loved it, high side of liked it.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I'm probably like square in the middle of liked it,
Gotcha.
with an asterisk still. So John, you feel free to jump in wherever. I think the typical format that we would do is we would talk about some elements that we liked at the beginning, and then we'll seep into things that we didn't like after we kind of peruse the elements that we enjoyed. So what are some things that we liked about this movie? I gotta say I like the story by and large, especially with the story as it relates to Bond's personal journey.
It was a good solid story.
And I think that this is a long movie, right? It's like 2 hours and 40 minutes or something like that.
All of these movies were
hefty.
Halloween
Kills was 2 hours. I think the other two were a good 40 minutes longer than that. But I think that this one almost felt like it needed that extra runtime. It feels like a finale, right? In more ways than one, but it definitely feels, and it has that time to breathe, to settle some things, to, take its time with relationships and with our goodbyes to characters, as this is the last Daniel Craig Bond. That's not a spoiler. That's a news article he's done with the franchise, and so this is the curtain call as a movie, right?
Yeah. He had said several times that he's just getting too old to stay at the level of physicality that the Bond character, the Bond role, demands of him, and so he just didn't want to have to keep himself at that level anymore. Which, I mean, fair. If that's not something that he does on the regular and is only doing it for the roles, yes, it would be hard to get back into it.
Well, you look at Hugh Jackman did the same thing with the Wolverine role. It's like, dude, I can only eat so much boiled chicken and work out for 15 hours a day. A man has to eat more than
Yeah, but the thing with Hugh Jackman though is every movie he took it to the next level.
Yeah, he did.
And it's like, dude, you can stop.
Nope.
You don't have to be.
Not
you
when
don't
you're
have
Wolverine,
to be that
man.
shredded.
Not when you're Wolverine. You have to be that shredded. He looked like he was like 120 pounds wet in that first movie. Yeah. He was lit a little guy.
On now. No.
And these movies are so brutal to Bond, right? Like they're not like some of the previous Bonds, like Pierce Brosnan Bond, like can never dirty his tux, right? Like that's the level that he's at. Daniel Craig gets beat to snot everyone, right? Like
this
it's
is
rough.
This Daniel Craig is the die-hard version of James Bond.
Now, this is more of a series thing, but do you like that version, Troy? Does it line up with how you imagine Bond? Is this a good, or does this get it too grungy, dirty, pulpy?
I enjoy it. I enjoy Jason Bourne. I like that style of spy movie or intrigue movie, whatever you call it. But I think one of the things that the Daniel Craig James Bonds lacked from the previous Bonds was that aspect of tongue-in-cheek fun that they had in the past. This was a much darker, a much more serious thing, and I'm going to stop right there because everything else I say is
yeah. What Bond did you grow up with? Like, or did you grow up with a Bond?
Oh, I did. The first Bond I ever saw in the theater was Roger Moore. So at first he started out to be, my Bond, and then my brother not really forced me, but introduced me to Dr. No. With Sean Connery, and it was like, oh, so this is Bond. Okay.
Yep.
So
I got a weird one in that I grew up in the era of Pierce Brosnan, but I grew up with Sean Connery.
Yes.
Diamonds Are Forever, Dr. No, Russia with Love, like those were the ones that we would rent, bring home from the library or whatnot, and watch, and not that we didn't get Goldeneye and the rest, as they kind of filtered in. But the Bond that I remember the most was more of the classic. So this is a huge step in tone and just overall presentation. A huge different step away.
Yes.
But I've really enjoyed it.
I did too. I appreciated the how Casino Royale started out as he wasn't he wasn't 007 yet. It was his trial run kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And it showed that he was chosen because hey, he can be our blunt force object that we send and just do heller damage when we need it. And I appreciated that because Sean Connery and Roger Moore was the more refined scalpel like tool of MI6.
You remember that? You remember the first trailer for Casino Royale? And John, you as well, like that first trailer and seeing him like in that parkour scene at the beginning of the movie, and it ends with him like punching through that wall and is like covered in sheetrock dust. He just like adjusts his jacket, and then he like falls down onto the couch, from several stories, and he just is sitting there, and then he again like straightens his jacket, stands up, like moved on, like that was such and Bear Droid saying don't forget Lazenby. There's there's a lot of good ones. I like all the Bonds. There's not a single one that I don't care for.
Oh, there is.
Well,
we shall not speak of Timothy Dalton.
Oh, wow.
Hey, I enjoy. Really? Okay, cool. All right. Well, that's fascinating. Oh, we'll have to. You don't like any of the Timothy Dalton Bonds?
No, I do not.
Oh, there's some consternation in Zach's voice now.
Well, I'm not.
You won't hit him.
I'm not super worked up. I'm just surprised.
There was something about. I mean, I love Timothy Dalton as an actor. A lot of the stuff that he's been in, I just think is awesome. I like Penny Dreadful. When he had his run on Penny Dreadful, I thought it was amazing. There was just something about the way he was written in those Bond films. It just didn't connect. Timothy Dalton is the tunic of Bonds. That's right. And to Bear Droid's point, you definitely do not forget about George Lazenby. I think had he done more than one movie, he definitely would have been my number 2 Bond.
Didn't they like
under Sean
bring
Connery.
him in and then like because they were in a weird spot with somebody else and then they got the
Yes.
person they wanted and so they
Well,
kind of like
they brought him in after Sean Connery
yeah.
left the role. He was actually a model
Mm-hmm.
and had never acted before.
Mm-hmm.
They brought him in. He played the James Bond that one time, and I thought he did a great job, especially for never having acted before.
Mm-hmm.
And for whatever reason, he wanted no extra, and they brought in Roger Moore. And he had done the Saint on TV, which was very much a James Bondish character. So he filled the role rather well. Got way more tongue in cheek, way more humorous.
Mm-hmm.
And then they wanted Pierce Brosnan, but he was unavailable because of Remington Steele. So they went with Timothy Dalton, and then they got Pierce Brosnan. So yeah.
Didn't I think didn't oh goodness. They brought Sean Connery back for one more. Yeah, they did. After
they did not. That
Diamonds Are Forever was 71.
That was not an official James Bond movie. Never Say Never Again was not.
No.
Official.
Diamonds Are Forever. Diamonds Are Forever came out after On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I think they brought Sean Connery back for one movie. Like after Lazenby, they brought him back, and then they moved on. Because then they went on to like Live and Let Die and.
For Your Eyes Only.
Yeah. Anyhow, John, what's your tie to the Bond franchise? Any, or is it something that you've not quite?
No,
committed to?
okay. So for me, I grew up on Sean Connery, 100%. But Timothy Dalton, I watched quite a bit, and Roger Moore, man, was really good. So those three are to me are like the triumvirate of Bonds. And then I kind of like my formative years were during the Pierce Brosnan era. I just couldn't get into. They were so silly to me at that point.
A little bit over the top.
And so
especially that last one, yeah.
Yeah, it was like I think it was the Dr. Christmas. Is that the one I'm thinking about? Like, which was that the last one, or was that the second to last one that he did?
Well, I think it was The World Is Not Enough is the one where I really feel they just kind of like went crazy.
Right.
And then they had Die Another Day, which just kind of followed up with Crazy with even more crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, if it were me, what would be neat is if the Bond mantle was something that was in universe passed on from one person to another. That way, if you wanted to, Sean Connery could have totally come back as retired Bond.
Yes,
which
that
would have been
that
pretty
was
cool.
that was actually floated.
Well, and I heard that they effectively the innuendo through The Rock, the movie The Rock, was that Sean Connery's character was really supposed to be James Bond, and that he had been locked away for decades on Alcatraz and such. So. No, I do love the Bond films and the franchise. For me, I like Craig. I think the Craig era moves away from the traditional Bond and moves it more into the Jason Bourne, gritty, punchy punch action genre, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that at all. It just moved into another thing, and I don't think I'm not invested enough in Bond movies to where that bothers me at all. Some that are like super traditionalist. It has to be a certain Bond or it's not Bond. I'm not in that camp. So for me, I can enjoy all of them. But like I said, they get really silly pre-Craig. They got to a point where it's like Jason Takes Manhattan levels of silliness, or Jason X, Jason in Space kind of stuff, So that's my take on Bond.
so to get us back to this one, so this one does things that Bond has never done as well, right? Like it takes it in a new direction. Um, I don't want to get into those directions because those get into spoilers real quick. But I will say, like, I think for me, the things that this movie chooses to do differently are the things that I don't like all of those things. Some of them steer too far away from what I want out of a Bond movie.
Yep.
But then also, so this is where I'm getting into a little bit of negatives here. Um, some of the Bond things don't really work for me either. So in 2 hours or 40 minutes, I was thoroughly entertained. I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. I walked out saying that was a great experience. I'm not sure that I walked out saying that was a great Bond movie.
Right. That is exactly what I said. It's like, oh, that was really good, but that was not James Bond.
Yeah. And that's really weird and kind of disappointing for the last Bond for Craig, right? Like this is the first Bond series that we've got like this really like story that truly stretches between all of them. There's arcs that are tied up here that were started in Casino Royale and were started in Quantum of Solace and that were started in Skyfall. Like tendrils of all of those movies come into No Time to Die.
Yeah. And I will
It's the
say
first,
I will
yeah,
say that in and of itself, the fact that
yeah,
it told the story is the problem.
yeah, right. Like that's the thing that we would want out of any other franchise.
Right, but not Bond.
But in Bond, it forces you to do things with the character and with the plot that feels counter to the history that we've now established over so many
Yeah, 20,
Bonds.
25 films.
Because we like that Bond changes actors. We like that what's her name? Dame Judi Dench can
Oh, she was
be from
amazing.
one Bond to another, and we just like, yeah, sure, like yeah, she's Pierce Brosnan's it's M, right? Yeah, it's
M.
and she's also Daniel Craig's M, and we're okay with that. And Q is in a billion different movies, and like he's the same actor, and like that's cool. And then but Bond rotates through, and there's never any like we as the audience just accept that we're showing up for almost like Mad Max, right? Like we're showing up for a guy called Mad Max, a guy called James Bond, and a story about him, but to try to piece it into a canonical aspect is kind of counter to what the whole franchise is about.
Yeah. I agree.
There's a lot more to say about this, but I think that's what we can say in a non-spoilery way.
Yeah, I think so too.
Is that a fair statement? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So with that, I think let's transition over to Halloween Kills.
Yes.
Oh boy.
So we're gonna do the same thing here. We're gonna start with John because this is John's movie.
This is mine.
Yep.
If you didn't know already, John really likes Halloween.
I do.
This is his franchise. I'm not saying I'm not gonna put words in your mouth, but this is at least one of your franchise babies, right? Like
it is. I've for those of you that received the well, no, it's not in this one. I received the Dwarven DM miniature. I created another version of the miniature of me whenever I was in high school for a game that I ran for my buddies at our little personal convention, and on it is a Halloween pumpkin because that was like my thing in high school was Michael Myers. It had to be on the base because I was super into the franchise even at that point.
So Halloween Kills comes out. This is the follow-up to the Halloween movie from
2018.
2018. John, did you like it, love it, hate it, or did you feel like it was just okay?
I have watched it a week ago and I still don't know.
You have to commit.
I have to commit for this podcast.
At this in this moment in time, you're free to change this when you walk away. But right now, where do you land?
Okay, I'll say that I say I liked it with a big asterisk. Big asterisk.
Yeah. Okay. Troy, let's go to you.
I know how Troy feels.
Where do you fall in this movie?
He spoiled it for us.
I hated this piece of shit. Oh man, I hated it. I did. It was just like, what the actual F is going on? What am I watching here?
Yeah. Are you a horror movie fan in general, and are you a Halloween fan
I am a
specifically?
Halloween. I'm not big on a lot of different types of horror movies. I have always loved Halloween.
Okay.
Well, I shouldn't say always, because I mean, Halloween 3 is like, wait, what? And then when it got kind of, there towards the 6 and 5 and 6, it was kind of okay. But it wasn't because of the franchise. It was just because you're just really beating this dead horse. I absolutely loved Halloween 2018. And I was so excited for this movie. I was so excited for Halloween Kills.
So this is not Troy hating on a franchise continued into Halloween Kills. This is Troy really wanting this to be great
I was wanting it so bad.
And wanting to support it because you love things that have came before. Okay, so we have one person on like it. We have one person on hate it. I'm going to fall right in the middle and say it was just okay. I have heard a lot of bad things about this movie, and it may be because I had tempered my expectations. When I went into it yesterday, I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. There are really bad parts to this movie. Like, there are parts of it that I am right there with you, Troy, and I hate these parts. There's also parts that I like, and I'm like, this was actually really fun. I will say for me, I have seen I sat down and watched most of Halloween in a hotel room, like the last Halloween, like in a hotel room a year ago. And that's all I messed with that. I'm not even sure I've seen any of the others in any meaningful way to say that I've seen them. Bits and pieces here and there, right? So this is the first earnest Zach sits down and watches a Halloween movie. So part of my enjoyment that Troy you missed out on might be some of the tropey schlocky stuff that this does. Wasn't quite as tropey and schlocky for me because I'm not seeing these things for the 12th time.
But you know what? The tropey and schlocky stuff was... There were several nods to the past movies in the franchise. Even the ones that are no longer canonical.
Oh, man.
They gave nods, and it was like, I see what you did there. I like that. Okay, that's really good. But, oh, that was garbage. I see what you did there. I like that, but, oh, that's stupid. The attempt was there, and it boggles my mind that it's the same director from 2018.
The same John writers,
Carpenter.
Too.
Yes, and John Carpenter was involved in this as well. And it's like, what happened? Was it too many cooks this time? Was it too much stuff being pulled in different directions that you just had to fit in? What did you do?
All right, so let me ask you this really quick: are we doing what we liked first, or are we following
what you
the
like?
formula?
What you like? Yeah,
Okay.
yep.
Okay, so John, give us what you liked.
What did I like? Yeah. Okay, so it's hard for me to. First of all, let me say it's hard. It's really hard for me to say that I liked it. It really. I just want to make sure that I preface everything that I say with that, because there were a lot of things I really did like, and there were some things that just made my effing eye twitch. The whole, a lot of them, by the way. What did I like? Man, the throwbacks were cool. They were this was like Easter egg central for a fat Halloween fan.
Yeah.
They were everywhere in there. So if you like it, a lot of that was built in for you. I liked the fact that they brought a lot of past characters back. I love the fact they brought a lot of actors in those roles back to their roles.
Same actors. That was really cool.
No spoilers. I loved. Oh man, I loved.
I'll tell you. I liked some of the specific scenes. Like there were some Michael Myers scenes of Michael Myers being Michael Myers.
Yeah.
I was like, that's cool.
Yes.
That was awesome. There's maybe 2 to maybe 3 of those scenes that I could be like, I stand by these scenes, and it was those scenes that put me into the it's okay sort of territory, because there's a lot of this movie that I absolutely hate, but man, oh man, there is a few that I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool. I'm so glad I'm watching this right now.
What else did I like? John Carpenter's soundtrack is stellar as usual.
Oh, it was awesome.
Let me get out of my face.
It was so good.
When isn't it?
I've gotten so into like I wouldn't say that I was ever into John Carpenter's music until pretty recently. Probably within the last couple of years. Started listening to a lot of his synth stuff. He's got he's got a lot of like albums that he's put out that are non-movie related. They're like lost tracks or things that he was working on with other movies and new stuff, and it's really, really good. And the 2018, the theme, it's The Shape Hunts Allison, is like the best thing he's done since the original Halloween theme. It is so freaking good. So the music was absolutely like on point. Yeah. But it's kind of hard not to do that when John Carpenter's doing it. There's a lot. I mean, I think we'll be going into spoiler territory if I go into that though.
Well, here I'll say a couple more things then.
Sure.
By and large, I think the pacing is good. Like, it's 2 hours, and for me, there was one point at which I looked at my watch, and I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Like, oh, is this almost over? Yeah, it's almost over. Okay, cool. Like, I never found myself, other than that one time, looking at the clock and be like, man, what is taking so long here, or whatever, right?
Apparently,
not to say
Troy
everything
did
was
not have
good.
the same experience because he's.
No,
I wish I
head.
had that.
No, I'm not saying that I enjoyed it, but my mind was active even with criticisms or whatnot. I never felt bored to tears by this movie, which is something that I was worried about based off of some of the reviews and whatnot. So there were some pacing things I thought that they did pretty well. I'm running out of things that I like about this movie.
Okay.
I mean, okay, there is a scene that is in the trailer. I will be careful here. That involves first responders.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wow.
Right.
That was a great, silly, silly,
yes,
intense.
Yeah. This was one of those. Yes, that was a great scene. No, this is not Halloween.
Yeah,
sure. I don't care. I don't care.
I was like,
yeah.
I'm enjoying this, but
yeah.
What?
Are we in the crapping on it part of it now, Troy? Is that,
I think we are. I think we're there.
Okay,
I think we're there. Yeah.
All right, go ahead, Troy.
Well, I didn't get to do what I liked.
I didn't think you liked
know
anything,
you had it.
so I was gonna.
No, I said I loved like the callbacks, the
yeah.
And
okay.
I think this might be there's two scenes that were just I got giddy about.
I know exactly what scenes you're talking about. I did the same thing.
I bet one of them. Nope, I bet one of them you don't.
Okay.
At least one of them you're like, oh, I didn't think about that.
Okay.
And I had to save this for after we come back because I don't want to spoil any of that. But there was two scenes I was just like, oh yes. But I liked it for a lot. I liked the parts that you've already said, the bringing certain characters back, actors back, the Easter eggs, the music. Yeah, the music was on point. The pacing was pretty good. I too was not bored, but I was more like, what?
Right.
Most of the time, not being bored. And I will lead. I won't do what I didn't like about it first, but I will lead into what we didn't like about it with this comment, because my lovely daughter has just walked into the room. She was watching it with me. She hated it so much she got up and walked out.
Oh man, there are very few movies I've done that in.
And I would have followed her if it wouldn't have been for doing this podcast.
Let me add a couple of more, because I feel like, just for the sake of the franchise, I'll add a couple of other things. I liked what they were effectively trying to do with it in some capacity, right? When we're talking about just like the theme that they were trying to go for, I appreciate what they were trying to do a lot. And there are certain elements of that I really, really appreciated. But I will go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. I was going to say, like, I liked where it started and I hated where it ended.
Right.
With that new theme that they tried to put in.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh man, I was like, oh, this is interesting. Oh, I like this. Nope, I hate it. Nope, I hate it even more. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Like by the end of it, I'm like, that's the thing I hate most. And you had a cool idea, and you just threw it out with the
Shat the
garbage.
bed.
Yeah.
So okay, I'll lead into the stuff that I hated about it or didn't like or whatever. Man, it was messy, and I'm not even talking about bloody and gory. I'm talking about.
Well, that too.
It was just that's a part of it, right? I'm talking about just like it being pieced together, the flow of the story, and there were too many things going on, too many characters. They were trying to do too much in one movie, and I wonder if like they're trying to set up for the third because it's already a preconceived end.
It's called Halloween Dies.
Halloween
ends.
Halloween ends.
Halloween ends. Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if there's like I can't imagine what setup any of that actually.
This movie doesn't go anywhere.
Right.
This movie doesn't go anywhere. Right. Like
it's a filler episode at best.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. It is. It is so ham-fistedly put together. It's very sloppy. I'm probably gonna steal a couple of Troy's things here really quick. Halloween 1978 Halloween was one of the things that makes it so unique by comparison to the other slasher films that it produced is that there's hardly any blood at all in the movie.
Yeah, it's very Hitchcockian.
Yes, and it's the Shape or Michael Myers the Shape was something that was that lurked in the shadows and that would show up, kill somebody, and then it would go back into the shadows again.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one or two at a time, one at a time, really. And even in all of the other movies, he never went whole hog, shall we say? And I'll leave it at that in order to prevent any spoilers. But when he went whole hog, like multiple times in this movie, like not just one big like, oh my god, it's real now. It was like there were multiple times, and they were like, what the hell is he doing? He's like out in the open, like.
He was John Wicking.
He could have just he may as well have walked down Main Street and just been like, "Come at me, bro!" from the entire time he was in the film.
Troy's statement is not unreasonable.
No, I agree.
There are moments of this movie where it's like, when you say John Wick, I'm like, yeah, that's an apt comparison.
The only thing that was missing was him doing the rapid reload kind of thing, or. If he would have walked out and kind of did the neck pop,
oh yeah,
and
shoulder shrug,
the shoulder shrug,
right.
but it was just like, what the is going on?
Yeah.
And
it was over, and there's a difference between like higher kill count versus one of the things that I hated about the Rob Zombie films is what they frickin' did in this movie. And they made it like gratuitously gory. Like it wasn't about the fact that he killed somebody.
There were several scenes, yeah.
Yeah, so it wasn't about killing somebody because they did it in Halloween 2018 too, but it was kind of like whenever they did it the one or two times, like oh, and then that was it. As opposed to let's let this linger. It turned into a snuff film in certain points.
Yeah. Well, not. Okay, well, let's back up. Not a snuff in the sense. There was not actually people die. But there's a scene, and I won't spoil much here. I'll try to avoid any spoiler. But there's a scene that involves a couple.
Yes.
An older couple, and it's the perfect like. There's a moment there. Yeah, this is. I'll just leave it. We'll come back to it because I feel like I'm going to tread too.
Yep.
Yeah, everything about that scene was nothing but gratuitous.
So I'll take this instead. I understand that in horror movies, people have to be dumb.
Oh man,
I understand that, right?
But damn.
Oh boy.
Wow.
Oh boy. God,
right? Like.
Yeah, that's on the
But
head.
Man, I don't know that I have seen a movie, a horror movie, where every single character has to be dumber than the one before it.
Yeah.
Like this, right? By the end of this movie, there is a choice made by a character and then another choice made by another character that goes completely against their character, goes completely against what they've said so far, goes completely against what the story has been telling us up until that point. and is just so they can have really dumb people getting in really bad situations. And I hate it. That was the worst part of the movie for me. If it wasn't like so close to the end, I would have walked out at that point, because it was like, if this is what you're going to do with your characters, the main characters of your movie, you're going to stoop them to this level of.
Nobody cares about them dying. It's like,
Yeah,
it's
no,
like
yeah.
I don't want to sit there and watch a movie where all the characters are like, you had that coming. Like every single one. A lot of them felt like that.
But there's two characters.
I know who you're talking
about. There's two characters that by the end, maybe three, that I wasn't like, I don't care, and then they made me not care about them right before the end of the movie. Right, like, so I don't have any character to root for going into Halloween Ends.
Other than Michael Myers, like just kill them all. Just come on, get it done.
So, is there anything else? There's more to say about this, but we need to get into spoilers.
Okay, so but before we get to the spoiler part, my unspoilery not likes, the writing was atrocious.
Yeah,
the dialogue was insanely horrible,
painful.
It was like a Hammer film. That
Evil Dies Tonight.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Evil Dies Tonight.
Well,
yeah. All you needed was a horrible
work
Transylvania accent. Yeah. But yeah, it's like, okay, let's just have the whole town chant it as their pitchforks and torches.
Have you seen? Well, hang on a second. I will say this though. Have you seen some of the dumb things or heard the dumb things that come out of people's mouths whenever they're chanting it, like rallies and crap?
We're in spoilers.
Yeah.
We're in spoilers.
Yeah,
we're in spoilers.
But
Let's
okay,
back up.
so and then this is not a spoiler. It's just it's a movie technique, and people do it all the time. I liked the fact that they did that. This takes up right at the end of the 2018, and kind of it attempts to show things from other people's perspectives at first, but then they jump back in time without any.
Don't say anything. That's
no, it's not spoilery. It's just they go back to the original movie to show some stuff.
No, don't. That's spoilery.
Shh. That's not spoilery.
Yes, it is.
Storytelling.
I'm
not telling you
about that.
Well, too bad I am anyway.
Wow.
Troy doesn't want anyone to have to suffer through this movie. So
yes,
for him, if he can spoil it to just get you out.
But it's like at first you're like, wait a minute, what? Who's that? What?
Yeah, without getting into
I see. This is back in time. Okay.
Yeah, it's really poorly done.
But
the jump is really poorly done.
Yeah, because it's like it's seamless. It's just like, here's a scene, back in time.
Yep,
like,
I agree. I agree. All right, we're gonna move on because, we're gonna come back. We're gonna come back. Yeah. There's every indication that we might divide this into 2 episodes, but they'll happen right now.
We are.
We're actually doing pretty.
We're at the hour.
We're actually doing well, but we had 15 minutes of trailers, so we're gonna be okay.
Yeah, that is very true.
So let's do Dune real quick. I'll start this time with the like it, love it, hate it.
Of course, because this was your movie.
This is my movie. So Zach is a Dune fan. Zach has read the first book numerous times going back to high school, and read the second book. I'm in the third book, actually, my first attempt through the third book today, or this year, and I play the RPG. I've run a campaign in that. Like, Dune is one of my things. I love this movie. I'm in the love it. Now I'll say I'm in low side of love it. There are things that I'm mildly frustrated about. And Bear Droid said one that we'll kind of get out of the way right at the beginning. This is not a full film. It's part 1, right? And they didn't do a good job of marketing it as such. But I knew that going into it, and so that's not a huge negative for me, because I knew, hey, we're only going to get peace. But I love it. I love it, and I'm not going to be ashamed of it. John, what about you? You finished it like 10 minutes ago.
I did. Yeah, it was like coming in under the wire watching this movie. It was like I liked it. It's not. I want to say that it was. I don't want to say it was okay because I liked it more than just okay. But I didn't love it. So
where are you on the Dune spectrum in general?
Yeah. So my experience with Dune is the David Lynch film. So 1984 Dune is my jam, and Troy's making faces, and that's fine. But I have feelings about that too, and the comparison of this movie with that movie. That we'll see what people think. But I have never read the books, any of the books, not even the first movie.
That's fair. So, they're not for everybody. That's for sure.
And it's not that it's not even that. I just haven't never gotten around to doing it. I've got the audiobook downloaded, and I plan on listening to it. And it's always something else comes up, something else reading something else, listening to something else. Yeah, that's but the David Lynch thing, I really like the David Lynch movie. I mean, people will probably hate me that love Dune, and that's fine. That's fine. But man, for someone who has never, just forgive me because I've never read the book. I don't know any better, right? Just put me in that camp. Poor bastard doesn't know any better, right? Yeah, that's fine.
So before we move on to Troy, Bear Droid is applying Hobbit levels to this movie. Which, that churned my stomach.
Those are strong words.
He's saying the Lynch film actually explained things.
That's true.
I feel strongly that you are somewhat right, but I don't want to go that far. And then Velenas says that the sci-fi miniseries all the way, and I will agree with that. We'll get into that in a moment, but I think Velenas is on the right track there with the sci-fi miniseries. It's a great entry into this world. Troy, where do you fall on the like it, love it, hate it, or is just okay?
I'm on the high side of like.
Okay. Nice.
I wouldn't say I loved it. I loved it. Was absolutely beautiful.
It was like an art house
visuals. The visuals of this movie are absolutely stunning, or grotesque, depending on what they wanted you to feel at the time, and it worked. But yeah, I thought it was a really good movie. It felt a little long in some spots, and there were some slow spots, but that's Dune. Dune is not an action-packed Star Wars adventure. It's political. It's slow moves into fast happenings and things like that. So I appreciated that. I'm glad they did not try to, waffle stomp everything into one movie.
Yeah.
I appreciated. I really did. Like, that's effectively like a 5-hour saga type thing between two films.
And that's where I have to disagree with Bear Droid. Pulling another Hobbit. You cannot make that thick ass book into one movie unless you're willing to do a 5-hour, like you said, a 5-hour movie.
And Dune isn't so much. I'll take a middle stance here. It's not the biggest book in the world, especially when you remove all the internal monologue, right? There's so much of that in the book. There's much.
Which is what I hated in the David Lynch movie.
Right. If you strip that away, but the difference is that The Hobbit is a simple story, right? You go point A, point B, point C, point D, right? That's kind of the story. It's a great story, but it's really simple. And so when you try to stretch it out, you have to find all these like pieces to fill, right? Gap filler. It's more wood glue than wood, right? Like by the end of it. Dune is like packed with stuff. It's just like every page there's stuff going on. There's so much political stuff. There's so much like back and forth between different houses. There's so much like intricacies of relationships and relationships between people, and also like different societies and different, like there's so much stuff that it allows a little bit of that. I think they did the right thing by not making it 3 movies, certainly.
Oh yeah, definitely. But see that right there, what you're talking about, taking away the inner monologues, you need to make it a 2-movie thing just to allow people to understand what they're watching.
I don't know that I agree with that.
Because of the political stuff. It's not something that's just so obvious, and you need to let it kind of breathe a little bit. I will also agree that the David Lynch I've never read Dune. I've read a lot about Dune. My father read Dune. We talked about it, stuff like that. So, and I've watched the David Lynch movie several times, and have only recently, as I've gotten older, just can't deal with it anymore. But if it was not for watching the David Lynch movie with all of the exposition and all of the talkie, there were parts in this movie that I would have been like, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like no exposition at all in this movie. None.
Yeah.
But that's not true. That's not fair, actually. There is some, and it's ham-fistedly done. Was my thing. It was like
it's at the beginning.
Well, and they literally have like Paul is listening to.
Yeah, that's a spoiler.
Right,
yeah.
Spoiler. Yeah, right. There is exposition in it, but it's like really obvious that this is the part where we're going to give you some exposition. You know.
Yep. Yeah. There. So let's steer back just for a moment. I am itching, as are you, to talk about some of the things that we found frustrating or confusing about this. But let's tie up a few more. If anybody has a few more likes on this, I'm going to say that I really liked the people that they chose for these roles. By and large, these are some really good actors doing some really good work. The villains are great villains.
Oh, I hate Baron Harkonnen. Not like in the right kind of way. Not that you know, Stellan Skarsgård, amazing, and I hated him in the Lynch movie because he was gross and disgusting, and I hate him in this movie because he's gross and disgusting and evil. It's just
yeah.
You know, like I thought the Baron in this movie was way too mellow. Like I loved
really?
the way the Baron Harkonnen was in the David Lynch. He ate up every scene that he was in, just chewed it up. And like
he's the same way in this miniseries. He's so chewy, like he goes nuts.
Right. That's
but
what I like that over the top maniacal kooky.
Yeah.
I mean, I get you don't want like there's an 80s sensibility about the David Lynch version that I completely understand why it wouldn't translate into like if somebody went and watched like, somebody that was born in like 95 or 2000 or something like that tried to watch the Lynch version versus this version, I wouldn't be surprised that they would pick this version over the other and think, "Oh my god, the Lynch version is like silly." It is. There's like almost like a cartoony component to it, but that's like I think that's a product of the era that it came out of too, though.
The thing of it is that I think though is that this is at its core, Dune is a political book. It's a political story. And so if you're going to have a political intrigue, you have to have a villain that rises to that, in my opinion, for a lot of the plot in Dune to make sense and to have stakes. If you feel like the bad guy is silly, the plot kind of is lackluster, in my opinion. This guy is creepy, terrifying, and they present him as this brilliant dude.
Yeah, he's a mastermind.
Yeah, mastermind is a good word for it. So he's awesome. I think Jason Momoa as Duncan Idaho was pretty good. He, they needed a light character, and I think that they gave him with that. I liked
Brolin as Gurney.
Brolin
as Gurney was really good.
He didn't play a musical instrument though. I'm upset.
That's true. I do agree with that.
Because Patrick Stewart is the superior Gurney because he did do that in the extended version of the David Lynch.
Well,
superior.
I thought Timothée Chalamet as the lead did a great job. Like, I wasn't sure about him to begin with, right? But there's a couple of moments that sold me on him. I thought Oscar Isaac did a great job as the Duke.
Leto.
And that beard.
Yeah. Okay, so we were talking before about making our beard line go up more on the cheeks. After watching that, that's all I could focus on whenever I was looking at his beard. I was like, his beard looks great. I'm gonna have to re-edge my beard. It's gonna have to look like he looked so great in that role with that beard.
Yeah, so good.
I mean, the movie is filled with really great actors. I mean, we've named a lot of them, but there's a chunk more that are just like doing great.
Javier Bardem.
Javier Bardem did it.
Stilgar. Yeah, he was good.
Yeah.
I actually really liked him. He was a standout. Honestly, his portrayal of Stilgar was dramatically different, but and I like in a really great way.
It's very close to the book, in my opinion. Like, that Stilgar is the Stilgar that I imagine. I think, by and large, that's true for all of these performances. I really bought that these are true to the book in somebody's mind, right? In Denis Villeneuve's mind, I buy that this is how he sees those characters because it's so close to my own. Yeah. Okay, well, so we like the characters.
It looked
Troy's
great.
talked about the visuals, spectacle of it.
Well, I liked the cinematography. I want to make sure that I'm specific.
That's a
about it.
better way of saying that. Yes.
The cinematography is phenomenal. There are things about some of the choices they made in regards to like color gradient, contrast, and saturation that I didn't like. But like from like just the composition, the composition was off the charts. Really, really gorgeous. Like I said, like an art house film.
Yeah. Some of the ship designs and things, like the world of Dune that they imagine, are really cool. Like the ornithopters are cool, the spice harvesters are cool, the ships that like the big spacing guild ships that transport things, like so cool. I was so blown away by
the costumes.
These costumes were cool.
The costumes were fantastic. I mean,
Dune,
everything
now,
visually was just.
I loved the armor.
There's
like the armor that they
the armor was
Yeah. I'm a big fan of like the Excalibur armor where you have like the high collar plate. I dig that.
And House Atreides really had that rock in it.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about some more negatives then. I think the pacing of this movie, because it's a part one, and because the book is already weirdly paced, like that book is kind of a mess as far as pacing goes. This one has the worst of that book as far as pacing, and it has to be the whole movie. There's no beginning, middle, and end to this. There's just a beginning. It's all set up. There's no payoff at all.
Now I know what if like I have a better idea of how people felt whenever they first watched the Fellowship of the Ring, and they were expecting an ending, and they're like, "What?" I remember being in the theater and people like dropping F-bombs. What the? It's as soon as Fellowship of the Ring ended, and it has that very like open-ended ending. How frustrated viewers were. I can't imagine people with this. It's like I got no exposition. It looks good, and I like the actors, but I have no idea what the hell I just got done watching.
Right. Yeah, and that's what I mean. It's like had it not been for watching the David Lynch version several times throughout the past years, I would not have known what was going on, and I would have been, I probably would have been pissed.
Yeah, like
it'd have been like, oh, movie is well acted, it's beautiful, and I don't know what the hell's going on.
Yeah. In order for me to say any more about that, it's going to be spoiler territory, so I'm going to avoid that.
I'm seeing Bear Droid said where they stopped it was a rough point to stop it. There's a reason that they stop it there.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that I thought it was the best spot, but there is a reason, and I can accept that reason as fine. I think the pacing thing is going to be the biggest thing for me. Also, I don't like the armor. I'm going to be like, it's cool looking, but in my mind,
you don't like the armor. Interesting.
Yeah, but in my mind, it's cool looking, but in my mind, Dune is very like imperial in space, like Renaissance in space. Like it's very like courtly. And there's elements of that, but when you go in full like power armor feel, it takes away some of that like aristocracy, some pseudo fantasy vibes that Dune has going for it, and puts me heavily into just this is a science fiction movie. And I missed some of that more finesse fancy aspects that I think kind of sets Dune apart from a lot of the fantasy that we see right now. Same with the blades, the swords. Like this is a small thing, but I felt like they very techied it up. They very like made it look like something futuristic, and I feel like Dune likes to be traditional, even though it's in the far future, 10,000. And it's 10,000, not even AD. It's 10,000, like 10,000 years after the year 10,000 or something like that.
After Guild.
Yeah.
AG.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's we talked a little bit about pacing. Some of the scenes would drag on, and then I enjoyed the soundtrack for like the first half of the movie, and then I got tired of like women wailing in the background after a bit. It's like it was, and that's like all I would hear sometimes in certain scenes is like, oh, hang on a second, it's going to slow down, and some like one or many women will start doing the Wonder Woman wail in the background, like, which is normally is fine. It's tribal and it's beautiful, and I really do like that, but. It's just they cranked it up to 11 every single scene that had a grain of sand in it. That was the first thing that they did was throw that out there.
I enjoyed the fact, a little bit of trivia for those of you that may not know, that was sung in a made up language for this movie.
Interesting.
They actually, which kind of threw me off. Why was there bagpipes early on when Atreides is
weird,
from
right?
Greece? The House Atreides is actually from Greece.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, that's
one of the weirdest parts of that movie
strange.
Was the bagpipes.
But they actually invented musical instruments for this movie.
The Blue Man Group.
I would have liked to have seen them instead of the bagpipes.
Yes, Blue Man Group would have been great for that. But yeah, they invented musical instruments, and they invented languages. Yes, he's from a line of Agamemnon. Atreides is from a line of Agamemnon.
Yeah. Bear Droid is saying they didn't care about the portrayal of Jessica. I agree, but the more I think about the books, and you feel free to disagree with this statement, but they do some. Like Frank Herbert sometimes does some frustrating things with some of his characters, especially his women characters, and writes them in a frustrating way at times. And I felt like the frustrations that I was feeling in this movie, maybe not in the same beats, but the same types of frustrations I was feeling with Jessica here. So I want to go more into that, but there's spoilers there. So,
so should we refill our glasses and then drop some spoilers? Give everybody some time to bail, or do we need to?
Yeah. So let's wrap up with this. Just real quick here. Let's finish with recommendations. Yes, no, right? I'm going to recommend that folks see Dune if you are a fan, but to have a different entry point into the series if you're not a fan. Currently a fan. Like, I think this is a hard movie to enter into the story with. I don't think it's for everybody. I'm going to say go watch the miniseries or go read the book and then come watch this. I think you'll have a better appreciation.
Or go watch the David Lynch 1984 version.
No.
The superior version. I'm not saying that. I'm just kidding. I wouldn't say that.
Now, see that to me, what not John, but what Zach just said. That's the issue that I have.
It is an issue.
I don't feel like I can recommend this movie if you don't already
100%.
have prior knowledge of Dune.
100%.
Because I'm not going to tell somebody, yeah, maybe you should go watch these other things or read the book before you watch the movie that is what you just watched.
Yep.
Told
I
different.
completely agree. So I'm going to say kind of recommend it, but you need to load up on some stuff beforehand.
Yeah.
Halloween Kills, I feel like you can just skip. And Bond, honestly, I think you're going to get more enjoyment out of it if you're not a Bond fan than if you are one. So if you just want a cool action movie, go see Bond. If you want a really solid Into the Bond, just skip it. And I think, which is a hard thing to say, but I think that's probably the right answer.
Yeah, if you want a good actiony Jason Bourne style movie, go see it. If you're not if you're not invested in Bond, that's fine. Go see it.
All right. Well, here, let's do this.
Wait, are we doing? Is everyone doing recommendations though?
If you have something that you want to say,
mine is different for Halloween. If you want to watch Halloween Ends, you're going to have to suffer through Halloween Kills, and there are some really great things that are in Halloween Kills that you can enjoy. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in spoiler.
All right.
In the spoiler area. So
I don't know if you'd have to suffer through
I think you do.
kills to see Ed.
Unless they do like a recap at the beginning of Halloween Ends.
Or just listen to our spoiler podcast. And
you could do that too.
Well, because like what we said earlier, Halloween Kills.
There's a couple elements.
It doesn't take you.
There are a couple things that have to happen.
There's a couple things. There's a couple things. Yeah. All right. Anything else before we get these cups?
Let's get the cups.
Let's do
the
it.
cups.
All right.
Yep.
Okay, and we're back. So, I'm tempted to just let us run full reign on all three of these, but I think actually doing the right thing and keeping it organized is the way to go. All right. Let's go in backwards because I think Chad is still heavy in Dune. So let's walk backwards through these, okay? So Dune spoilers. Let's start with Jessica and where I was going there. Frank Herbert, because he does so much monologue or internal dialogue, and because he wants all of his characters to be brilliant, which they are. I mean, like, his characters are brilliant because they're his characters, right? Even like all of the House, all of House Atreides, and all the main characters in his stories are brilliant, but Paul has to be even more brilliant than the brilliance, right? So by default, his mom, even though she's a super smart woman, Lady Jessica has to act dumb at times and say dumb things and act scared and act whatever because Paul is the person that's sometimes being contrasted against her, and Frank Herbert likes to put down one smart character to make his main smart characters look smarter. And he does that through all the books, and especially as you go on into like later books, boy oh boy does it get that way. So there are elements where I'm like, man, Lady Jessica's not supposed to be this way, but I guess she kind of is. Just for it feels different on the screen than it did in the book. What did you guys think about the box scene?
Boo.
I will say I liked the Lynch version better.
Really? Okay.
Only
fascinating.
Because you're seeing in his mind that his hand is falling apart, melting, or burning up. Right? You don't know that. His hand goes in the box. You, as the audience member, are watching this, and you know
they needed something there.
Yeah, nothing. No sizzle. No steak.
They show like fire. They showed like a fire scene
towards the end,
like in his head, though.
Yeah.
Right. Like
yeah, you needed something more.
Yeah.
You needed something more. The Bene Gesserit costume, amazing.
It was great.
Like and how Lady Jessica wears her stuff. Like I was like, this is so much cooler than I ever imagined it.
Yeah.
Bear Droid saying, Lady Jessica trained by the Bene Gesserit to control every aspect of herself, strong enough to defy the Order, but she just has constant breakdowns.
Yeah, that was a bit like, oh, come on.
Yeah,
that is true. Like it seemed like
I agree with you. I agree with you. I just have the same
angst.
complaint. Yeah, I have the same complaint with the books, though, is the problem. So it's a true to the books. I wish they would have refined it maybe a little bit, but like I get so frustrated with the books. Like I'm reading the third one now, and spoilers, it's about Paul's kids, and they're supposed to be twins.
Well, it's called Children of Dune, isn't it?
Well, some people don't know that.
It's on the cover.
Well, but they're supposed to share knowledge, right? They're basically the same person by and large, these two kids. But yet the son, because he's the protagonist of the story by and large, and will certainly become the protagonist in later books, has to say things like, "Why can't you understand?" And like every 5 pages in that book, it's like, "You should know better. You should know this. Obviously, it's this way." And it's just over and over and over again because that's how Frank Herbert makes you as the reader understand how brilliant one of his characters is by him putting down another character. Yeah, and Bear Droid saying, "Wait till you get to God Emperor." That's what I'm hoping is that I think God Emperor is going to jump the shark with this. But yeah, I think those two are a mess by and large. But like, there's cool things that they change about this book too, like freaking Baron getting poisoned, but like flying up to the top, and then he has to go into this freaking tar pit bath
That
was
weird.
awesome. Like, I got so pumped by that. I'm like, that's a cool visual.
Well,
Here's the
but
thing,
did
though.
he get poisoned?
Well, no, he totally got poisoned. Yes.
I don't think he did. I think that was when he did the shield, and it came up. He went, and he was just cowering, and he's in that thing to kind of like, oh, I don't want
No,
to make sure.
he got poisoned.
Everybody
He
else
got poisoned.
died. Everybody else
I
died
know.
right away.
I agree. I don't know the answer for that, other than that he somehow survived somehow, but to negate the poison. I think they communicate that with an offhanded line, which is part of the problem of this movie, right? Is that everything's an offhanded line at best. The problem, and also the thing that you can appreciate, but like, he's in that vat because he has poison, and I like that better than like, oh, I had this brief moment of premonition, and so I like backpedaled myself halfway across the room, and I'm fine. Everybody else in the room dies, but because I backpedaled really quickly, I'm okay.
I'm gonna be unpopular again. The Lynch version was better, where he's like, Leto is whispering to himself in like this almost like a feverish state, and that freaks Harkonnen out. It's like, what is he doing? And then he starts to back away from it because Leto's out of it, and so
that
the other Mentat comes up and gets it instead. And also not only that, but like the poison gas didn't fill up the entire room. It just filled. It was just enough.
Yeah.
He needs to get in close because he's gonna want to gloat and get in your face and really rub it in that he got you.
Yeah. But Bear Droid's saying that it's a Tleilaxu healing him, and that's exactly right. Like,
what is that?
Tleilaxus are like the people. I don't know if any of this is
facial hair,
so I'm going to be
or
careful.
head hair at all?
No, they are people
None of them
who mess with biology and with cybernetics.
Wait, so let me ask this really quick. Do the Harkonnens not have any body hair at all? Is that a thing?
Correct. In this movie, in this version.
Gotcha. Okay.
That's what they are.
Because
everybody on Gidi Prime has no body hair.
Gotcha. Because Sting had lots of body hair. Or at least head
Sting
hair.
had no body hair.
This is a super
I'm sorry. I'm
important
going to say head hair.
conversation.
He had like he had a do, as it were.
He did have a do. But yeah, that's why they have all the eyebrow covers and bald heads.
Gotcha.
In this version, because all of the Harkonnens are all of Gidi Prime is.
That's how you know they're
Sans body
evil.
hair. Yeah. They couldn't do. They didn't want to do goatees.
There's some weird stuff that they did with Gadi Prime and Salusa Secundus, which is the prison colony planet. Which they kind of talk about, but it's where all the soldiers, the Sardaukar come from. That's some weird stuff that was not in the book. Like they have like sacrifices being drained, and like that's not in the book. Now it's brutal like that on that, but that was weird. Yeah, and Valenaz is saying it helps make them visually distinct, which is 100% true. You always know when you're in a scene with bad guys because they look nothing like the Atreides.
Mm-hmm. They look alien. The most alien of humans.
Yeah, I mean, like, I don't know how much spoilers there is for Dune because it's all set up, right? Like,
well, that, and I mean, most people have either seen the Lynch, read the book, or seen the miniseries. There's not much in the way of spoilers, other than there's not much exposition. There's not much, they're not laying much of a foundation for you to actually understand what's going on.
Bear Droid was going to talk about them completely leaving out a character. I will talk about the fact that they changed a character very dramatically, and that's the character of Dr. Kynes.
Oh yes,
Dr. Liet Kynes is now a instead of being a male, the character is now female.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of being Cheney's father, he's now her great aunt, I think is what they said.
Mm-hmm.
They is a passing reference.
Something like that, yeah.
And they give her this really interesting scene right before she dies, where when she parts ways with Paul, she's supposed to say, "I will stay here and delay," and he's supposed to say, "What about your safety? Or aren't they going to kill you or something?" And she says, "I'll say that I was a captive of yours. I'm the scientist for the Emperor. I'll be fine." Basically, is her communication. And then she ends up not being fine. They kill her anyways. But in this one, she does something way different, which is she's like, I'll be fine. Don't you worry about me. I'll get there a different way. And she goes to try to hop on a sandworm and then dies.
Yeah, which is very disappointing because when she did that, Pops was like, ooh.
I mean, I knew that they were gonna kill her there. Like it felt like that's where her character was heading.
It's weird too for somebody that's only seen like the Lynch version. They made like riding a worm to be a really big deal whenever Paul did it. It's like Paul tamed the worm, and now he's riding that beast. Ooh, that's cool. But if like any Fremen can do it, it's like
they can all do it. They can all do
Well,
it.
yeah,
That's in the book. Yeah,
and that's how I took it for this because I mean, even in the Lynch version, you just don't see it because they're always covered in the sand wash
dust. Yep.
So
But they say like
they
say like if a kid isn't riding a worm by the age of 12, he's not a good kid. Is kind of how the book portrays it.
Throw him out like a Spartan.
That's fair.
I was disappointed that they showed riding worms at all in this movie. I felt like that would have been a great thing to save for movie 2. They show it briefly.
It's riding a bike. Riding a worm is riding a bike on Dune, because you know you can't ride a bike on Dune.
Yeah. So, go ahead, Troy.
I think Fade will be in part 2.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. So that's the character that was left out completely.
Yeah,
I disagree. I think they're getting rid of Fade.
Who's he going to duel at the end?
I think he's going to deal
Raban?
Beast Raban. Yep. Because the Beast Raban isn't as trashy as he is anywhere else. Like in the book, he's basically a side character dumb nut, right? Like everybody hates him in the book. Even the Baron hates him. Like no, he's trash. In this one, he's not quite that.
From what I understand, though, Fade really didn't have a whole lot to do. If like, looking at like the Lynch version, he didn't do anything.
No, Fade doesn't do anything. No,
Raban
not
was
really.
doing all the stuff until Fade, only in like the last quarter of the movie had anything to do. And so I feel like that's why Raban is like, why add another character to this that's just going to sit on the sideline? We'll bring, like, whenever things start to go awry, we'll send Fade in, and he'll help Raban out whenever the Fremen come in and start becoming a problem.
There's a rumor as to who's going to be Fade in the second movie.
Sting. It's got to be Sting.
No. It's actually a guy that was in, I believe, Blade Runner 2049, which Denny's also directed, and he's the one. He has alopecia, where he naturally has no body hair whatsoever, and I guess he's worked with the director a few times, and they've said maybe they're going to bring him in and have him be Fade because of previous, and he's already got the look.
Thomas Lee
Ryan
Marquis.
Gosling. No.
Thomas Lee Marquis.
Yeah.
He'd make a good Fade.
Ryan Gosling?
Ryan Gosling?
No.
Dune meets Notebook.
Ryan Gosling has a.
But can you? Yeah, that would be interesting. And I'm not saying that that's a for sure thing.
I mean, I appreciate it's a rumor.
Yeah. Well, I'm saying that I'm not sure it's a for sure thing. That Beast Raban is the one that they're just going to go with him. I could see it going either way. I'll be disappointed if they bring in Fade for movie 2 only to kill him off immediately. Because I feel like they should have trickled him in a little bit on this one. I appreciate, though, that Bear Droid is bringing up some really good scenes that really are odd. The Chris knife being a worm tooth is supposed to be a big freaking secret. That's what Bear Droid said, right? The book has more nuance to that scene than what the movie presents. I think it's exactly the same scene in the book and the movie, but what they don't show, and this goes back to how Jessica's portrayed in the book, like Lady Jessica is like stumbling her way through that encounter in the book. She's trying to say things that trigger prophecies, but she doesn't know what she's saying. So when they show her the tooth, they say, like, do you know what this is? Right? And that's the test. If she doesn't know what it is, they're going to kill her, because the prophecy is like, you should know, right? Like, that's kind of the idea, at least. At least that's the way that I remember reading it. And she's freaks out about this because she knows what's at stake, and she's going to say, a stupid answer because she's trying to be vague and mysterious. She's gonna say it's a maker of death. But all she gets out is it's the maker, which is the Fremen word for the worm. And so it's like it's it's this big thing, and in the book it's like, whew, I said the right thing on accident, right? It's like the Hobbit where Bilbo says, "Give me more time," right? In the thing with Gollum, right? That all that nuance was lost here, right? Like there's none of that in this movie. It's just
there's no exposition, no nuance.
Is there anything else that we need to talk about with Dune? I feel like we kind of ran into a bunch of negatives in the back end, the spoilers, but I mean, I do love this movie. I think I'm very satisfied with it.
I think it will be great. I think the first movie will get better once the second movie comes out.
I think so.
Because then it will be it'll be a long ass journey, but at least it will be a nice payoff.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
I agree.
It's one of those things where I would have felt better about liking it more just so that I didn't seem like such a lame wad for liking the Lynch version as much, if not really, honestly. Like I was talking to Gabriel about it, it was my son about it. He's like, so what did you like about the 84 version so much? It's like, I don't know, man. It's probably the fact that that's what I kind of like cut my teeth on. That's like my first experience of it, and so I'm comparing it in the different direction than a lot of people that love the Dune books. I'm comparing that the new movie to the old movie as opposed to the new movie towards the book, and people originally that didn't like the Lynch movie compared the movie to the book. And they're like, so they threw it away. Like, that's trash, that's garbage. So we'll compare everything to the book from now on. I never had that. So I thought that the movie, the original, did a lot of really great stuff with a lot of the exposition, and the Harkonnens seemed more cartoonishly vicious and brutal. But there was a lot of like really gross stuff that happened in that was pretty neat, I thought. So. It's not a bad movie. I enjoyed myself. I'm glad I watched it. It's just not. I'm not Mitch. I'm not going to watch it 4 times over the course of the next
in a weekend.
In a weekend. Oh my god. Nope. I'm done. I'm done at this point. I'll be looking forward to seeing the sequel or the part 2. But I'll still have the 1984 Dune movie on at the ready. So
okay. Well, let's do this. Let's move on to something that John is excited about. With Halloween Kills spoilers. Oh my gosh, John, why do you like this movie at all?
All right, so first of all, why don't you guys like the? Okay, hang on a second. So, do you not like the flashback, or do you just not like the way that they cut to the flashback? I just want to make sure you understand that.
I liked the flashback.
The flashback was okay.
Once I figured out,
what the hell was going on,
dude? Go ahead.
But then it was just like, what happened? Because, I mean, I was like, okay, if this is the worst thing in this movie, how they jumped from present day to the flashback and then back again without any real indication of what was going on to let us know, this was gonna be great. And it just kept snowballing down the hill. It's like
the movie, first part of the movie, like the first 20 minutes is great.
Yes, it is.
And then it hits the bar.
Oh,
yes. Man.
Exactly.
Like,
it gets really awkward in the bar.
This movie. I hate this movie.
Okay, so hang on. Let me before let's we may have to do this chronologically in the movie because otherwise we're gonna do a lot of jumping around, I think. So so for me, I loved the Halloween flashback. I freaking loved it. As I'm sitting there watching it, I'm like, and I know what's going on. I'm like, oh. I'm like, I've got Gabriel on one side of me, and I've got Jasmine, my oldest, on the other side of me, and they thought it was hilarious that I was just so into it. But I thought that it was visually, at least the way that it looked was really good, and the way that they did the original Myers mask was phenomenal. The way that he moved was spot on with the way that he moved in the original.
Yep.
And then, oh man, come on, big spoiler. Loomis deepfake? Shut up! I don't care how
That
bad
wasn't a
it was.
deep fake. That was not a deep fake.
What?
That was not a deep fake.
What?
That was a guy that was working on the movie. They said he had an incredible likeness to Donald Pleasance. The rest of it was all done with practical makeup effects, lighting, and they added the grain to make for the flashback scene.
I'm gonna have to see a making of to believe that. Yep. I don't believe you. I trust you, but I still don't.
It is not a
believe
deep fake. It is not a deep fake.
But the only reason why I say is it looks like a deep fake because his mouth moves weirdly.
It does because it's weird. It is kind of weird.
Yeah, and the it's like a caricature of his voice, which it's the best you could do.
Well, that was somebody else that did the voice. But
no, like including Loomis, man, come on, just the warm the cockles in my heart seeing Donald Pleasance, or even the likeness of Donald Pleasance included in it. I didn't care. It was so good.
That was good.
But in that.
But then even in that scene,
it was
he's
stupid.
like, "Tommy, has
die?
Michael Myers killed again?" With a guy like
he's
yells
been
up the
killing him all
stairs.
freaking night.
Right.
Yeah.
The dialogue was definitely clunky.
Oh my gosh.
As hell, for sure. I'm like, well, that's awkward. Donald Pleasance would have delivered.
These are the
that
types
better.
of movies that when I watch them, I'm like, I could be a Hollywood writer.
Yeah. Yep.
Couldn't we all though?
I could have wrote that.
Yeah.
But there was the other thing that was so, God, man, the sheriff's deputy that was standing in front of the window looks down and saw the boots. I thought perfect. He's going to jump out like right now. Right now. Nope, he's going to keep looking out there and he's going to have a line of dialogue and then Michael Myers is going to run out. I'm like, what the hell? Like the timing on that was terrible. This guy is a dumbass. He's standing there and he's looking down at the boot prints of the guy he's chasing.
You have hit upon the thing that I felt the most from this movie is like this movie allows there to be like 4 extra beats.
Yes.
For just before everybody's character, just so you realize how stupid they are.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, he looks down at the boots. Michael Myers should jump out right then and kill him. But no, we got to make sure you understand that this cop is dumb. So we've got to let him like look down and be like, I
didn't make those.
And he said he goes and he even had a line of dialogue. He said something to the effect of like, well, there's Haddonfield. Nothing ever exciting ever happens there, or something like that. I'm like, first of all, why the hell is that the line he used? I know it's a callback to a previous line in that same scene, like it was supposed to mean something, but I'm like, that was so superfluous and unnecessary.
Okay, so yeah, and I know we don't want to jump around too much, but when he's standing there in front of that window, something that gets said later in the movie about how, or maybe it was then, I don't remember, about how he was always standing in front of that window looking out, Michael Myers, even as a little kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
What did he see? What was it about Haddonfield, or what was it about whatever that he was looking at that had him fixated? Why didn't you show me through the cop's eyes something out there? That I don't know what it could have been, but something that's like, and it would have been perfect. You could have the cop do the Michael Myers kind of head tilt, like, wait a minute, what is that? And then have him jump out.
I think the thing though,
for something. I think
the thing though is that it's supposed to be something only Michael saw.
Right, but yeah, and then the whole supernatural crap that they talked about later.
Well, okay, now hang on a second though. The supernatural thing, you say that's crap, but at the same time, Michael Myers got shot 6 times by Loomis.
I know,
and then he gets shot. There has to be a supernatural component to it.
The guy has
to be like the embodiment of evil or something.
But you haven't addressed it in anything until now.
Well, I don't know that we can make it through all of this movie.
Yes, we can.
In chronological order.
Yes, we can. Let's do it.
No, we can't.
But
we cannot.
But like, I'll stick with it for a moment because, like, you cut straight from that to modern day, and you have what I assume to be the end of the last one, where they're driving away from the burning house and the fire department's going to it. And then you cut straight from that to this freaking bar that is, you talk about exposition being schlocky, John. Like, Like Dune was poetry in its
Oh
exposition
no.
compared to this.
Yeah, I'm not.
Like at one point,
protecting that.
like they set this up with like all the survivors are hanging out in the bar, right? Like that's the
Yeah.
pitch that we're supposed to get. Which sure, I don't care. Then it's a talent show. Great, I don't care. A talent show on Halloween, why not? And then like one of the survivors gets up and he's like, "Oh, he's gonna do bird whistles or something." And like
Yeah.
I'm like, "Okay, sure, why not? Let's do this." And then he's like, "No, what I'm gonna tell you is a story. I'm gonna tell you a story in the boringest way possible."
Yes.
It was
Yes.
so boring.
It was.
And
It
it's
was
like-
so boring. And then like everyone in the bar is gonna have this moment with us as we all like reflect on the town and on the person that terrorized us, and we're all gonna like feel something inside that draws us together. And after this boring ass speech, the entire bar is gonna buy this guy a beer and to go up to him and tell him how much his story they appreciate. And like I was ready to end this movie.
I was
after that bar
I
scene.
knew that I was in trouble. That's the exact same spot. I was like, oh boy, this is where people started getting upset.
He starts like this guy is a survivor, and they're talking about the tragedies, and then he finishes his story by taking the freaking spotlight from the stage and shining it in the eyes of all the other survivors and being like, and this person, the person whose babysitter was murdered on this night, and this person who survived an encounter. Like, I don't care. I don't care, and I've never seen the other movies. Like, why would you do this? Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And then it ends, that scene ends, and I know we're skipping around a little bit here, but the scene ends for those characters by one of the freaking characters walking out into her car and finding a Michael Myers, not injured, evidently, which I assumed he was, because evidently he's just taking a nap in the backseat of her car.
That wasn't Michael
That
Myers.
wasn't Michael Myers. That was
This
the
is
other
one of
mental
the
patient.
issues. So in 2018 in the 2018 movie, when the
So I understand
Yeah.
that. I understand. Yeah. The psychiatrist, mental patient guy.
Yeah,
but,
it was a
but they
mental
never say that.
No. Well, you're supposed
No.
to.
Well, you see it
pick
because
that
you
up,
see
yeah.
he doesn't have a mask and he's got the hair.
But there's no explanation for why he's camping out in the car.
There's no explanation why that mental patient character is in the movie at all.
At all. It's so dumb.
The reason
The
why
only-
he's supposed
the
to
only-
be there is that they were trying to make it was social commentary. Is what
Yes.
and that's okay. And if we're not worrying about skipping around, that is one that like straight up pissed me off. It's like, damn it,
dumb.
Look,
So
social commentary is
dumb.
fine. Social commentary is fine if it is
Done intelligently.
done intelligently and very well. If it's well put together. This was so preachy. Then it was so ham-fisted.
Well, and it gets so we can actually help the listener here by saying that. So they have all this group in the bar, and then they all find out that Mike Myers is alive, and they're Mike Myers. There you go. And they're like, we're gonna end this. We're gonna rally together, and we're gonna go hunt this guy down. And I'm like, that's cool.
Evil
Cool.
dies tonight.
Evil
dies tonight. And I'm like, that's a cool like twist on this movie is that it's gonna be the hunter becomes the hunted. Great, cool, awesome. The movie then takes about at the 2/3 of the way through mark, it decides that actually all of these survivors are really bad people that get super bloodlust freaking crazy, will hunt down and kill anyone that they think looks weird at all. They end up killing a dude in a mob like fever pitch because they're like, that guy isn't part of the town. He must be Michael, even though he's a short, squat, non-masked, scared-looking dude. They're like, Michael Myers, and they chase it.
And he even says, "How do we know? We've never seen Michael without a mask on. It could be him."
Yeah, they say
It's
that.
like-
Then they chase this guy down. They force him onto a ledge, and this freaking insane psychiatrist looks at these people, and this guy and us as the audience come to an understanding at the same time that if he does not leap out of this super tall building and kill himself, they are going to do unspeakable things to him.
Mm-hmm.
And so he does. And when he dies, it's like all the characters immediately realize that wasn't Michael Myers. And so then two of the characters stand over the body, and they're like, the woman looks up at the guy, and she's like, and he's like, I didn't like, I'm sorry, I couldn't stop it, like it just, and she's like, well, what are you gonna do? Are you gonna sit here and just let this be the end, or are we gonna go do something? And he's like, we're gonna go do something. I'm like, you just killed a guy, like.
Yeah.
And the movie doesn't want there's no repercussions for that. There's no talk about that at all. And it only, like, that mob thing only gets worse from that point on. The movie's message is very much, who cares that they killed this guy? What's important is that they get Michael. Like, it does not want there to be, oh man, I hated that where that went, was just like, stop this. It's dumb. You turn the survivors of all these other movies into villains on par with Michael Myers in this movie.
Well, I think what they were trying to get across is a continuation of the morality play or the message of the first movie. And the first movie was all about how trauma affects people and how they become, like what happened to Laurie Strode after her encounter with Michael Myers, like what that did to her, and the trauma and the post-traumatic stress and how she dealt with it and all this good stuff and all of the negatives. But instead of, they kind of like doubled down and they did it again. And to your point, these are characters that should have been like more, like, I don't know, noble characters. Like it's Tommy and Lindsay, like Lindsay Wallace and Tommy Doyle, or Tommy, I think it's Tommy Doyle. Yeah, Tommy Doyle. Yeah. The two kids. You make them into, first of all, you made what's her face, Lindsay, into like a goober. Like all of them, like whenever they went to the park, and they whenever they got confronted Michael and he was on top of the car. First of all, throwback was cool.
That was the scene that I got giddy.
Yes, he jumped on the car just like at the beginning of the '78 one, and the nurse Marion. Well, I got the hand slap. The whole thing happened again. I was like, oh, that's cool. But everybody in the car was dumb as hell from that point forward. Everybody was dumb.
And did you know? Okay, so in the original movie where that scene happened, they were driving, and Michael was on top of the car, and the nurse is driving, and he slams his hand on the window, on the side window to break it. You can see
the wrench.
They have a wrench like duct taped to his hand, and that's how he was able to blast through the window. They did the same thing in this movie.
Oh, I didn't notice that. That's cool.
If you look really close, they put the wrench in there, and he slams the thing to break the window.
That's
cool.
So
I'm like, oh, that was so cool. I loved that. That was one of the first.
Well, I mean, I think really what's irritating, the most irritating, is that every single one of those characters are poorly used.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Tommy becomes a meathead that is like an Ahab, right? He has to go and kill.
Yep.
Turn him into Ahab, and then they turn Lindsay in. She was pointless. She didn't get killed, but she was pointless. And Nurse Marion was pointless. There was no Dr. Loomis was always right about
the young couple.
The young couple, that was pointless.
The gay couple, pointless.
That was not just pointless. That was insulting as hell, because that couple that they had in there, the fact that they heard somebody in their house and they didn't call the cops or get the hell out of the house, either one. I don't care if you're gay, straight, or otherwise.
Well,
no person in their friggin' right mind would stick around there.
Okay, so as a note, Little John was the dude in the tank top, right?
Yes.
Of the two of them?
No,
right?
he was Big John.
Oh, okay, yeah, that was Big John. That was, Big John. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Big John, I thought it was going to do something interesting, because he's like, he takes off his watch, he takes off his ring.
Yeah, he does the whole thing.
He picks up a little knife, and he's like, I have a knife. And the other guy picks up a knife, and he's like, I have a knife. And there's like this ritual almost to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, it was kind of cool. Like,
I didn't think about that.
Okay. Right? And then he goes upstairs, and I'm like, I don't think that he has a prayer of killing Michael. But I think there could be an interesting thing here. Maybe Michael gets stabbed, and he's a little bit injured for the coming finale. Like, maybe something happens here. Because these two characters are at least fun.
They were fun, yes.
Right.
But they were used.
And they were,
but then he goes up there. he goes up there and just gets murdered.
Yeah.
There's nothing to it. He just gets murdered. And then the other one gets murdered. It's the same thing with the older couple that
Yep. And not only does Little John get murdered, Little John gets murdered off camera, so you don't actually have to see it. But he goes in, he sees Big John laying there, and he's like, "Oh, Big John!" And he looks up, and Michael is standing there looking out that window because the Big John and Little John now live in the Myers home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah.
He looks up. Michael is looking out the window that he always used to look out. He stands up and doesn't do anything else, but looks at Michael and goes, "Michael, you came home."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Michael turns around, kills him.
Didn't
the
rage.
older couple?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He
older couple-
didn't rage out. He didn't try to avenge Big John.
No.
He didn't run. Nothing like that. He just stood. He just sat there. Which that's a thing too, right? That like sometimes the fight or flight instinct glitches in a person, and they're so
freeze.
petrified they freeze up. So that's fine. But all it did is like you already kill one of them off camera, and like you give this guy at least give Little John something. In order to kind of to redeem both of them, and they don't even get that.
Yeah, they were a fun couple that could have been really kind of cool in that movie, and they just totally.
I'm not going to beat up the older couple as much as I think that you are. I think my biggest problem was that it was protracted. It was dragged out too much.
It was gratuitous.
It was
everything
brutal.
about it is like the language that they were using. Which I mean, I'm not a prude when it comes to language. But it's like it just seemed like everything was let's amp up the vulgarity for this older couple. And I mean she's flying a drone, doing all kinds of tricks in the house, and flies it into this really strange room off to the back corner. And that's how it all there's a guy in our bathroom or whatever. It's like, well, what's he doing? I don't know. Call the cops. I mean, that was kind of funny, but then the grossness of the deaths. Or just like, this is not Halloween.
It's not. It really is.
There was a scene that was in that, I think, and I don't know Halloween from anything, but when she's laying in the kitchen and the husband's already dead, but you see the scene where like he pin cushions him, but it's like blurred in the background. Like that's really a great moment.
That was kind of okay, but
Now we haven't talked about. We got to cover this at least. I gotta put a word in because we talked about a lot of crappy stuff. The fireman scene where they go to put out the blaze.
The first John Wick scene.
They go to put out that fire, and they unknowingly, not even rescue Myers because I think he was getting out of that house either way.
I don't think. I think that if the firefighter had not
he
fallen
opens
through,
the metal. He opens the grate. You're telling me that he can get out of the iron bars, but he couldn't break through that wooden floor if he wanted to? Like, I think he was getting out of that house no matter what. But that scene of, like, him brutally murdering, like, 15 firefighters.
Yeah. I think that it would have been better served if it had been...
interesting.
Well, it was interesting. I'm with you. But I think that it would have been better if they had... There weren't, like, 15 of them standing outside... And it was like a brawl instead.
It was so silly. Yeah. It was so silly. That end because they all have axes. The one guy has like the power saw.
Yeah.
He winds up like it's silly. It's campy. It's ridiculous. But I loved I was like, oh, if the whole movie is going to be this type of scene, which is horrific, but also super stylized and kind of funny in a way, just because of the overtop nature, I can live with this. And it didn't really ever hit that point again for me.
It did for me. Because it's like you had that scene where, I mean, and again, I say John Wick, but that's exactly what it was. He had that Halligan tool, and he just wades into him and blocking and doing this, and another guy will come up with something, and he blocks that as he's killing another guy and does the thing, and then the second time that this happens is towards the end of the movie. And it came from my second favorite scene. The first was the window. The second was at one point the mom pitchforks Michael in the back in the house.
Yeah.
Curb stomps him on the stairs. Takes his mask off.
Yeah.
And Michael's not done. He gets up. the mom runs out into the street and is like, hey, I'm an innocent woman just like your sister was. Come and get me. Which is like, again, the dialogue is garbage. And she's like taunting him. So Michael, and they never show Michael's face, which I kind of appreciated that.
Yeah.
But he's like, he totally ignores the hurt girl at his feet that he could just take out and goes after the mom to get his mask back. And he gets out to the street and runs around. She's hiding. He looks down. The mask is laying in the road, and he's standing over top of the mask. Now you have the crazed town folk on either side of him in their cars with their baseball bats and hockey sticks. And
not going to run him over or anything.
Yeah, not going to run him over. Not going to bring guns, but they're going to beat him to death. And he's standing there, and he's like looking from side to side. And the scene was that I really, really liked was before everything started. He takes the time to bend down
and pick up the
mask to put it on.
Yeah.
And to me, that there was something about that. It's like in his strange psyche, his warped brain, he has to have this mask in order to do. And then so everybody comes up and they put him down, right? And then the guy from 40, you killed my daughter 40 years ago. I'm going to, evil dies tonight. And he comes up with his gun to shoot him. And Michael wakes back up and takes out everybody. And we're talking, blocking
30
kicks
people,
and, cutting hamstrings and cutting here. And it's like, I was waiting for him to start doing some crazy break dance martial arts fighting at this point, like capoeira or something. And he just takes out everybody. Just kind of like, oh my gosh. And he's like, when does he say you killed my dog? It was just, what the hell?
Yeah.
There's more. But I mean, we just
listen. I gotta say the last thing here. So when the three main characters pull up, when the three main characters pull up in their truck in front of the Myers house, they all have guns. They all have been talking about hunting people down, sticking together, blah, 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 for forever, right? Like the whole movie has been about, you do this together, if we stand together, we can do this. Like that's been the whole pitch. As bad as the movie is, it's been consistent with this idea of like, the way we stop Michael is where we stick together.
That's right.
They pull up at the house, and whatever his name is
Lonnie.
like,
Lonnie.
Lonnie's like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to finish this and you two are going to stay out here.
By myself.
And they're like, okay. And then he walks in, you hear a gunshot, and they're like, oh, there we go. That's our sign that we need to go deal with something. I'm like, your sign was when he said he was going to do this by himself. Thank you. They walk in, then they split up in the house. Because that's what you do. The boy walks up the stairs, looks up, and sees Lonnie like halfway crammed into the pull-down attic.
Yeah.
It's like Lonnie has been one of the only characters that you don't absolutely hate through this movie. And he is killed off camera in no meaningful way.
Yep.
Then Michael like brutally kills this guy on the stairway, like puts him down. The girl tries to stop him, and Michael just brutally murders him anyways. It's the worst. It's worse than what I'm describing it here. It's so rough. Then he goes down, and you think, well, she's going to be able to do something. Nope. She's going to get beat down. Then, like you said, the mom pitchforks him. All three of those characters lose any credibility with their actions in that scene, right? Like the three characters that we're supposed to like lose all credibility. And then, you're right, he goes outside, he's like, come get your mask. She's like, come get your mask. I'm an innocent woman. I'm like, there's an innocent woman at his feet. And he just did this exact same thing on the stairway where the girl down the stairs is like, don't kill him, kill me, come get me. And he's like, oh, you obviously care about this person. I'm going to murder them horribly, and then I'm going to kill you. But for some reason, because we need a survivor girl.
Because she's got the mask.
he's not gonna just anyhow, we could go on, but
we didn't even touch the fact that Lori.
You beat me to it.
The 2018 was stabbed.
Yeah.
And goes through surgery in this movie. It is fine, and an hour later is up running around trying to. I'm going to go kill Michael.
Well, hang on a second.
What?
Hang on. Let me park on this one just for a second, okay? Because that's one of the things that bothered me the most. The gross misuse of Jamie Lee Curtis or underuse of her in the movie, and then the way that they sidelined her character, like they show her on an operating table and she is eviscerated. They were talking about like 1.5 foot gash from like from breastbone all the way down to her pelvis. It's huge, and it's not just big. This thing looks like a chainsaw went to it. It's completely split.
There are doctors wading into the guts visually.
Yes, they are repairing internal organs on top of suturing up the laceration. And like halfway through the movie, she gets like an injection of super juice, adrenaline or whatever it was that she had on hand, or if it was morphine or whatever, and suddenly she's able to get upright. It's just the craziest thing, man.
And there's every indication that the next movie is going to continue right from this one. Halloween Kills.
That's actually not true. They've already said it's going to be a 4-year jump.
Well, at least she's healed.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
But between her and Officer Hawkins in particular, like that's the other one too. Is like I was willing, like suspension of disbelief was pretty high in that first 20 minutes. So Hawkins surviving at the very beginning of the movie, I was like, oh, I like his character a lot, and it pissed me off that he died in that first movie. I was like, it was fine that he died, but it also really pissed me off because I really liked him. And so him and her being together, and those moments were actually kind of okay,
best parts of the movie
were like them like they always had a crush on each other kind of thing, or not that necessarily, that they had like a moment with one another and they wished that they'd allowed it to last longer, and maybe by doing that and living their lives, like things would have been better up until this point at the very least. In 4 years she'll have adamantium bones, says Bear Jordan.
Let's hope.
We can only, she's gonna need them apparently.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
that was it's a shame. It's a shame. Like that, like I liked it, but it is. Oh man, I've really struggled with that movie.
It was just a train wreck from start to finish for me.
Well, look, we got one more movie here. John, you're okay with spoilers on Bond?
Yes, 100%. Go for it.
Okay, look. It's been long enough since I've seen Bond at this point that I'm not going to have the rage or the strong emotions, but there's plenty to spoil.
Yes, there is plenty to spoil.
So let's do Troy. I think this is going to be a quicker one, but
this will be a quick one.
The things that are not Bond about this movie is that Bond has a child, which plays in heavily into the plot. And he dies at the end.
And he dies. Yeah.
100% dies. 100%. It's not even a halfway.
And did not need to.
No. He did not need to die. The fact that he had a kid was interesting and good story-wise. Not good for Bond, because as soon as he realizes he has a kid, his whole demeanor changes. He becomes not a Bond character, but like a person. Right, like he has feelings and he has like wishes and he wants to, he has a legacy now that he wants to, there's a lot of that, and like
yeah,
it's just
I liked the movie. It wasn't Bond, because Bond is timeless. Bond doesn't die. That's the whole point. Bond is escapist. It's you go to watch a Bond movie so that you can escape from reality. It's over the top. He can do things that nobody else can do, and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that was I think the downfall of the Craig movies, is because when Craig started in Casino Royale, they're like, this is going to actually tell a story that does not exist in Bond films. You can watch Bond films in any order.
Yeah.
Because they're just missions.
it's just a weird thing because any other franchise would be like, great, finally a story, and in this one we're like, don't really need it. The villain is not that great.
No.
Which is
but I
shame
like
because I really like Rami Malek like a lot.
Oh yeah. And there's a level at which Raimi works in this one. There's like a he is initially he's painted as someone who has a personal vendetta against Bond's love interest, and it's as simple as that. He has this, her dad killed his family. He's returning the favor. Is kind of the pitch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm okay. It's an interesting dilemma for this Bond that this villain isn't world ending and it's not going after Bond. It's this guy that just he's crossing paths with the people that Bond cares about in this one. But then then it's like, oh wait, he also has this plan to kill the world.
Yeah.
And I did not care at all about
because,
that. Yeah, he's like he's got these nanobots and he kills all of Spectre, which was super fascinating. Like he has a vendetta against Spectre, so he kills all of them. And I'm like, that's really weird. We see Christoph Waltz comes back in this one,
which was cool.
Which in a very much like a Hannibal Lecter set of scenes. Great. It just went too far. Like the movie decided to take everything about 2 steps further than I would have preferred that they took it.
Yeah.
I don't need the villain that far villainy. I don't need the Bond personal life that far into his personal life. Like it just 2 steps too far.
Yeah. To me, Bond was just the theory that I had always went under and enjoyed the most is that it's much like the Jason Bourne in the aspect of you're Brian Webb.
Yeah.
When you get assigned the 007 moniker, the name that goes with that is James Bond.
Yeah.
So that way going forward, that's why to me he was always so flippant about saying my name's Bond, James Bond. He didn't care if people knew his name because
it's not really even his name.
Yeah, it's not even his name.
Yeah.
And that's why he could change. Sean Connery was a different James Bond. Roger Moore was a different James Bond, and it just kind of kept going. So if they died, they died. It didn't matter.
And in this one, at the beginning, he's not even a 00. Like he's
retired
completely. And they have a new 007, and it's this black gal. I can't think of her name. But it's like, and to me, that was a little bit frustrating because there's been this cry for a different type of Bond, a non-white male Bond. And I don't really care, but I'm also like, well, but his name's James Bond for a reason. Like, he's going to be he should be at least a dude. Because that's the character. I don't really have a super strong opinion, but if you were to ask me, that's what I would say. There's a large vocal group of people who wanted the next 007 after Daniel Craig to be a person of color and a female.
Yeah, they wanted Idris Elba.
Or Idris Elba, But and then they give it to us in a way that is broadcast from the very beginning that they are going to take it away by the end.
Yeah.
Like it's like, hey, here's a black woman that's 007. Oh yeah, she's super cool. Oh yeah, she's super professional. Oh yeah, she's definitely going to die by the end of this movie. And she doesn't actually die, but she gives up the 007 title before the end of this movie.
Yeah. And I at first I'm like, okay, this is gonna be kind of cool, but they didn't do anything. I kind of enjoyed how they started the antagonistic
They
relationship.
needed more of that.
They needed more of that.
Bond is a little bit pissed off that they haven't retired his number.
Yeah, they thought he thought that they would retire, and then again, she's also pissed off that they brought him back in. So it's like, wait a minute.
Yeah, there's a thing there. But she's interesting, but she doesn't get much to do. The person who's actually given a lot to do is the other girl,
Moneypenny.
No, not Moneypenny.
Oh,
Um,
his love interest. Yeah.
no, not his love interest.
Oh,
The other one. There's a lot of gals in
who?
this movie. Um, ca- let me get a name here.
Oh,
Ana de
Paloma.
Armas. Paloma,
Paloma.
yeah.
She was
She,
badass.
she's badass. She could be a great. Now, let me back that up. I don't think she'd make a great 007, but she could. You never know. But she makes a great spy
Yeah.
character, a
See,
fun character.
now,
She's
yeah,
the humor that the Bond Daniel Craig movies
yes,
have been missing.
exactly. She's what we wanted, or what Bond should be, that fun and that over the top. Oh, I've only had 3 weeks of training. And does all this crazy stuff. And
She obviously has had more than 3 weeks of
yeah,
training. Yeah,
but yeah, it just,
yeah,
the,
yeah.
the, the, I could have bought most of this movie, the over the top villain, because that's what you want in the Bond. But the fact that he died and the way he died, to me, is absolute 100% garbage, because he's infected with the nanobots.
Yep.
But and these nanobots make him now a carrier, and he is now poison to anybody he comes in contact with, and they will die instantly.
Yeah. Yeah.
But Q gave him a watch that emits an electromagnetic pulse.
Yeah.
What is a nanobot? It's a little robot. Why didn't he just go?
So dumb. It's
boop?
So dumb.
I'm
They
cured.
put they put they put the gun, like
They put the magic bullet in his hand.
they put the magic bullet in his hand like a third of the way through the movie in a clever way. Like it's not like it's for a whole different thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's a good magic bullet. And then he's like, "Oh, I got nanobots on me." And Q is like, "Nope, there's no way to fix that. You are going to be that way for the rest of your life." He says nanobots are forever or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, "Don't. There is plenty of ways to get rid of nanobots. You just needed Bond to have a reason that he couldn't be with the people that he cared about."
So
And
he
so
might as well die.
might as well die by a billion rockets to his face.
Yes.
Yes. And that's not a joke. That is exactly what happens. He stands on top of a building and he calls in a missile strike, and like a cluster of 300 missiles rain down onto his body. Like they're not like, "Oh, he might still be alive. Ha, he jumped into a river or whatever." Like, no, he died.
No.
100%.
And because they show the blast, but see, and that's the thing, because they have now, I don't know if it's a rumor or it's actually a report. I'm assuming it's an actual thing. They wanted a clean reboot for the next movie, for Bond 26. They want a clean reboot. And again, this goes back to my issue. You don't need to reboot Bond.
No, you don't need.
Bond is forever. They're just missions that you're watching.
Yeah, there's some really good callbacks though, so I don't want to. I feel like our spoilers have been a lot of rough, but like there's a cool callback where like when they're in HQ, and like you see all the M's.
Yes, and you
in
see
portraits.
Dame Judi Dench and
In portraits on the wall, like
the
it
original,
recognizes that all of the Bonds are connected. And I loved that. I was like, this is so cool. There's a really cool scene with the Bond car. Probably one of the most intense, awesome scenes where the bad guys are just unloading on his car. Bond is pissed off and isn't doing anything. One of the bad guys walks up with a shotgun, like, "I can handle bulletproof glass." Takes the shotgun, puts it on the glass, and just starts boom, 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 just eating away at this glass, and Bond's just staring ahead like dead-eyed, and up until the point where like the shots are gonna find, like 12 shots go into this glass. It's so cool, such a tense scene. And he's like, "Fine, whatever." Flips a button, the miniguns come out of the headlights. He does a little spin, just murders everyone. It's such a cool scene. There's several of those like really cool scenes in the movie.
The action scenes were good. The gadgets were fun. The Aston Martin DB5, seeing that again with the original buttons in the console, not like new fancy buttons. Awesome. It just
The scene with Ana de Armas was also really
It was
cool.
so much fun.
Every scene with Christoph Waltz was really cool.
It was really cool.
There was so much of this movie to love. It just was too long and too much. It went a bridge too far in too many spots.
Yeah.
So
It
anyhow,
went too serious. It went too dark.
I think the best thing I can say, one of the last thing I'll say is, I guess I am very excited for the next one because I don't want to watch any more of this story. Like I'm glad this story ended so we can get back to not telling stories.
Yeah, hopefully. Unless that's what they're going to do from now on, they're just going to keep telling story arcs and
Yeah.
killing them off and rebooting it and starting over again. I don't know, but I will leave you with it. This is what I had hoped. I had hoped they would do this for the last of the Daniel Craig Bond movies to solidify that dream rumor of mine, and that was not kill him off, but Daniel Craig's Bond finally is like, okay, I'm done. I'm going to retire. He gets a message. It just has an address. He shows up at the address, walks in, and it's like one of those old hunt clubs, like those British hunt clubs with the
Oh, and
with
yeah,
the
I
deep
know what you're gonna
woodwork
say. Yeah.
and the leather seats. And he walks in, and there's the bartender, and the bartender slides his Vesper over to him, and he's kind of like, "Oh, okay," and he picks it up, and he greets me like, "Good afternoon, James." And he kind of like, "Wait a minute, what?" And he looks back, and here's all of these high-backed leather chairs sitting in front of this fireplace, and one by one, the old Bonds all lean forward. And now with the deep fake stuff, you can do that with Lazenby and Connery and Moore, and everybody leans forward and holds up their martinis, and they go, "James," and done. So now you know that every one of these guys was a different person, but they earned the moniker of James Bond, and it can now be passed on to whoever else in the next movie. And if it's a woman, you just call her, Jamie or something. I don't know. You just change the first name, if that's what it comes down
Troy,
to. But it could be anybody.
Troy, you have a lot of good ideas. This is not one of them.
What?
Boy, I hate this idea. We should end this sucker because like you don't kill them. You don't build the mythos by revealing. Oh man, I would probably quit Bond if they showed that scene. I would
Whatever.
probably quit Bond. I would be like, oh my gosh, no, Villeneuve, you're wrong.
Exactly.
Right?
It is the perfect post-credit scene.
No,
Yep.
I would. No, what they should do is they should have. I don't want any Bonds should never. It's just like Mad Max. Like you don't put two Mad Maxes in the same room. It's a legend. The legend is not that there's 50 Bonds. The legend is that there is a James Bond, and that James Bond is in a million stories, half of which are not true, right? Like, but you get to see all of them. Like,
but you get to see all of them.
Either
way.
I would hate the idea that this is
well,
because what you're doing, Troy, is you're doing exactly what you told them not to do, which is you're trying to turn all of it into one story, and that is the wrong way to go.
I'm giving them the ability to say yes, it is all one story.
No.
If they need to, but you don't need to.
Right, we don't need that scene. We want
but
to burn
it would have been a lot better than what we got in No Time to Die. Yes, it would have been 100 times better than what we got.
All right. Well, hey, enough's enough.
Enough is enough. I said.
We got to end it on. Yeah. Good grief! We have now talked for almost 2.5 hours on these 3 movies. Troy's gonna have a great time editing this. No, and you know what? This is the short episode compared to Sunday, folks, right? Sunday Fun Day. We have another weird episode coming up.
And it's probably going to be middle of the day-ish?
I don't know. Whatever we find time. And I'm not promising we get through all of that episode either. Like no promises made there. But we're gonna watch the first episode of Critical Role Campaign 3 Sunday at some point.
Yeah.
And we're going to see what we think of it. This has been the movie episode. Hope you guys liked it. No, not a word of D&D was spoken. So appreciate you hanging in there. If this was Bear Droid, there is a rumor. I'll tell you what. Special for stream,
Well,
and so this will go away eventually.
So let's end it, and then
yeah. Stream's gonna get a little tidbit. Podcasters, you don't get it. We're gonna close this sucker down. Thanks a lot. You can go head over to our Facebook page or to our Discord and chat more about these movies or any others with us. We'd love that. That's a big, exciting hobby of ours that we love to talk about. So come chat with us on Discord, chat with us on Facebook. Head over to the podcast feeds if you're listening to this on the podcast and give us a rate and review. We'd appreciate it. While you're at it, go check out Sif Pop because I can't credit them enough for the work they're doing with movie reviews, and we stole this whole format from them. So fair is fair. We'll return the favor. Troy, John, thanks a lot for talking movies with me, and we'll see you next time.
have a great movie night, everybody.
Stay safe.
Done. All right, so real quick, I don't want to get too far into this, but I don't think that it's something that I would probably put on this. I don't know. Like, I have opinions about what was said. I think the safest thing for me to do is to make a statement about what we were told and let other people have their own reactions, right? And I'm going to remove the names of anybody that was on the panel.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a fair statement?
Very.
I mean, they'll be able to find it. I mean,
sure.
I would think.
Sure.
So.
Yeah. So there was a panel at GameHoldCon. There were several panels, several AL panels, and I went to some of them. And one of the panels was talking about seasonality and seasons in general and whatnot. What parts of that do you want me to relay, Troy, John?
What's the future?
Okay, so the future is we will continue to get more converted hardcovers. We will get, in some capacity, some Tier 1 content that is not Candlekeep. But the other thing that we're going to be getting is Red Wizards, which we all knew. But the Moonshae, Baldman Games Moonshae, and the GameHoldCon Border Kingdoms are also going to be Red Wizards, and they're all tied together. There won't be three separate stories. There won't be stuff happening in the Moonshaes. That's like, obviously it's different paths of story, and obviously what happens with Baldman is still going to be at least partially in the Moonshaes, but it's all going to be part of the same storyline that is Red Wizards. And that will be like the second arc of the Red Wizards. They're finishing up the first one and diving into the second one. What else did I tell you, Troy, that we need to add to this?
There will be other content, but it is Dungeon Craft content.
Yes.
And that's so all seasons going forward will not have a
season.
It is just the hardcover adventure converted into AL adventures.
Yes.
So there's
then the Red Wizards,
yeah.
and then the Red Wizards overarching thing. Yep.
Yeah, with the three prongs of the Red Wizards, which is Dreams or the Red Wizard stuff, keep on the border, or the Border Kingdom stuff, and then Moonshade
and
stuff.
As much as we like the new rules for AL that are for this quote unquote season 11, I feel like they listened to the player base by and large with that rule change. I feel like this is a really weird step back.
Yeah.
To say that we're condensing storylines, we're making it to where you need to play, that there's not a thing for you to go love that's not the main branch of the WotC story. You can't go play in the Moonshaes and be like, hey, WotC do what they want with the seasons. We're gonna go have fun over here. You can't do that anymore. I loved Borderlands. Not saying I won't love the next thing of Borderlands, but like I loved what Borderlands was doing off in its corner of the world. There won't be that like way different story over there. It's just all gonna be the same. So if you don't like Red Wizards, there's not gonna be a lot for you. And if you like Red Wizards, but you just want something else that's not playing a hardcover, there's not gonna be anything for you.
Yeah. Unless the only saving grace that I can see is if some enterprising authors do some dungeon craft adventures that tie into themselves.
Yeah, you can't do that with Domain of Dread or with the Domains of Delight even. You cannot do crossover stuff, is what I was communicating.
Correct.
Pretty much.
But
yeah.
if you
maybe
give
in
me
future seasons.
But if you give me a nice storyline, then maybe it'll scratch that itch that past seasons have done.
Yeah.
Because is Dungeon Craft only for the alternative campaigns, or can you do?
No, it's only for the hardcover. So it's for Plague of Ancients. It was for Rhyme. Domains of Delight is for Witchlight. There's not going to be a million different dungeon crafts, I don't think. It's beats. So that's the Zach's not really worked up version of what was said, and that's not Zach. Yeah, saying things he shouldn't publicly about some of the stuff that was said in that channel or in that panel, but it was a bit of a letdown. We'll just put it that way. What that panel communicated to me. And there was more to it than that, but that's the public stuff that I feel like can come from my mouth. The rest of it is you kind of needed to be there or go find. I think it was recorded, so you could probably go find it and watch it for yourself and have similar opinions. I know, John, you are ready. You have an early morning in the morning, I believe.
Every morning.
Every morning. Zach also has an early morning. So I think we should call it with that. Bear Droid, thanks for hanging out. Appreciate you.
Yeah, definitely.
Velanaz, and I saw Girk out there. I saw Craig out there.
Joint
Aiton
effort,
out there.
Aiton, Lilituff, Lyle Lilituff. Yeah.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We promise that next week we will get back to your regular scheduled things, but I would encourage you to come give Sunday a try, because I think it's going to be fun whether or not you like Critical Role. Because we're gonna have things to say, and I think you're gonna enjoy hanging out with us and having things to say as well.
Now, is there a way that we can actually watch this while we're and have this be part of the stream and have us in it, like if it's put in one of a box on the overlay, or
What I'm going to encourage people to do, because we have a delay, right? Is we'll try to cut that delay. I think we can just get rid of it. What I'm going to encourage is we're going to all hit play at the same time together, because streaming it through somebody else is going to be touch and go, I think.
We can't do it like what we did when we watched the...
Well, that's up to John, and maybe we can figure something out.
Yeah,
maybe
we'll work on it.
Maybe if we can play with that a little bit.
Yeah, we'll figure it out.
I think there is a difference between. I'll note. I think there is a difference between a trailer show broadcasting a full trailer and broadcasting a full episode of something, like pulling it off of their page and putting it on ours. But we'll see. We'll figure out a way. Either way, we want people to watch it alongside us, so we're gonna help them do that. So.
Okay, yeah, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out, hopefully.
All right.